Hello artists! This week's project uses circles against straight lines, a variety of patterns, and black versus white to create a dramatic effect. In this project, as we go through, it teaches several principles of design that we will talk about as we work through this project. One of those is variety, another is balance, and then probably the most obvious one is pattern. So we'll be talking about those three principles as we go through this project. You need several things for this project. Most importantly, you need a piece of paper, and I've been using things I think you have at home, so I'm using a piece of cardstock. You could use a regular piece of computer paper, but your Sharpie may bleed through that. You need Sharpie marker. It can be either the fine, ultra fine point or the fine point, and you need a ruler. Now you may also need a pencil. I am mostly not going to use a pencil for this. I think it's better if you just go in Sharpie, but I'll show you one area where I will use a pencil. You can go around the house and collect the circle shapes. So you need a variety of sizes. So one of those things that we're going to use variety in is the size of our circles. So this is a margarine container. This is the top of my moisturizer. This is the top of a vitamin C container, a plastic cup, a bowl, but that's where you'll want to use a pencil and not Sharpies on your mama's bowl. I like tape because it's easy to contain. The inside there is nice, and a CD. So the variety I'm going to use, this will be like my largest circle, and this will be my smallest. So I've got some nice variety there. I'm going to use the inside of this and my CD container. So I basically will have 4 different sizes. Now where you start on this project is somewhere, if working left to right, if that's easiest for you. If you are left-handed, it might be easier to work right to left, and you can decide that. But for me, it's easiest to work left to right, and I'm going to choose anywhere. I can angle this any way I want, but I do want to start on one side, whatever side is easiest for you, and I am going to take my Sharpie marker and I am going to go down the left side. Now before I get started, I want to show you these again. This was done in fine point Sharpie. This was done, sorry, that was ultra fine Sharpie. This was done in the fine point Sharpie, a little bit thicker one. So this one I think got a little bit heavy. I could have maybe done more that were a little bit lighter on this one, but this was the fine point, a little bit thicker. This is the ultra fine point. So you can kind of decide what you like. So that you can see my lines, I'm going to use the one that's a little bit thicker, the fine point Sharpie. And so let me push this up, make sure it all stays in the picture. And I'm going to put this again anywhere I like. Now remember, when we use a ruler, we kind of spread our fingers out so that when I go, my ruler does not move and I don't end up with a curved line. So I'm going to press down with my non-dominant hand. For me, that's my left hand. And I am going to angle my marker in so that I get this nice line. So I'm angling my marker in. Now, I don't have to measure on this project because what I am going to do, it's not easy for me to go on the other side. I am just going to line this up here and do my next line. And line it up, spread that thumb and your fingers out, and angle your line in. Now I have a page that I already started this on so that you don't have to watch me do that as long, where now I'm almost to the edge, and I am just going to go ahead when I get to the edge. See how I'm not along the bottom anymore? This one's going to run off the side, and that's what I want. I am going to then run off the side and go here until I can't do any more lines. Okay, now it's not easy for me to go on the left side here, so I'm just going to flip my paper around, and I am going to then go on the left side here. Okay, and that one, I don't need one more. I thought I might need one more there. So now I have my lines. Now I am going to do the same thing, and I am going to add circles on here. Now my lines are pretty well balanced. There's that word balanced. They run across the page. Now I am going to start adding circles, and my circles will run off the page. But I want my circles to be balanced in where I place my circles. Well, what do you mean? I don't want to put everything on one side of the page. Like right now, if this was a weight, if I were to put this on a scale, this side of the page would tip down and look heavier than this side of the page because I have put more things on this side of the page. So when I do this, what I kind of do is I use one shape several times, and I kind of look and I balance that shape, and that looks fairly balanced. I could use something down here, but it looks fairly balanced. Now I'm going to use a big shape and run that off the page too. This is where, because I don't want black Sharpie on the bowl, this is where I'm going to use my pencil. I tried to look for something about this size that was not something I'd have to trace twice, but I couldn't find anything I liked. So I'm gonna then run this one off the page here. And I am going to go back then and trace these with my Sharpie. I'm not going to do all of them right now. I'm not going to keep the video link, but I would go back and trace these. Actually, I'm going to do it right now, so otherwise you're not going to see the balance of it. So I am going to go ahead and trace those. Now I'm using my variety because I have straight lines playing against curved lines, so that gives me some variety. I'm using a variety of shape. Do you see how this side looks a little heavier than this side? Right now I've got this area right here that does not have the same weight. So I am going to start over here, and I'm going to use my CD and place my CD. Again, we want to run off the page. Maybe right here. And I'm getting kind of full. All right, I don't like my lines here, but I can cover some of that up with pattern when I get there. They got a little bit wobbly. That was something else I was going to say. Be careful that your pieces don't have too rigid of lines, or your Sharpie will ridge it and it'll end up zigzagged. I still think I need something right down here. And maybe here, but I don't want to get overly full. So I think maybe I'm going to run this one right here and then use my little one and stop. Okay, so now I'm going to add a few of my smallest. Again, point your Sharpie in towards your circle. So point it in towards that. Maybe right here. You know, another thing is when you're doing a piece is to step back. Last week we talked about Matisse, and he was bed-bound, and he would lay in his bed and look at things from a distance. So you get a different perspective. If I were doing this professionally, I would step back, and I'm getting this pretty full, okay? So I think I'm pretty well balanced, except maybe a couple of spaces. I think I'll run one off the page up here, give it a little bit more weight, and also adding patterns is going to change my weight of this as well and change the balance. So now you're to the point where you can just start adding patterns. You can add a variety of pattern. So you can add stripe shapes, and you can add polka dots, you can add diamonds, you can add swirls, you can add doodles, and I'll show you a few of those things in a minute. But what you're looking for is contained spaces. So each one of these contained spaces, you're going to put a different pattern in. So here I've got checkerboard and swirls. and I've got zigzag lines with dots in it, and I've got straight lines with swirled lines through them. You can look up all kinds of patterns with Zentangles online. You can come back to this, which is at the beginning of the video, look at some examples on that. On this one, I played with some kind of squarish zigzags here. Here's some more squarish swirls, excuse me, spirals, some squarish spirals. And here, zigzags, I've got thick lines playing against some thinner lines here for some variety, but you want that variety of patterns. Also, you guys, you can use just plain like black, fill in with black for this, and you again want it balanced. So notice my black creates some movement a little bit in this, and also it helps balance. So you wouldn't want all your black on one side. You want to make sure that you balance out your patterns and balance out your designs. Another art design element that we talk about is repetition. And notice I repeat some of these, our principles is repetition, and I repeat those stripes. So now you're just ready to get started, and you could do it in thin, you could do it in thick Sharpie, but you're going to find those contained spaces, and you're going to start adding patterns. You are going to step back, and you are going to evaluate when you get a number of patterns in there. Am I repeating my patterns? Am I balanced? Do I need more patterns on one side or another? And like I told you before, I repeat my pattern. So what I kind of do is I choose a pattern, and then I do that pattern several times. I kind of try and balance it out, balance each pattern around the page, and then as I get closer to being finished, I evaluate how I have done. Now, one more thing, and this is an experiment, a live experiment here during my video, and that's, I've always wondered about playing with some color on this as well. So we are going to experiment with putting some color on here and see what that does. So if you've had some of my classes before, we've talked about how brighter colors come forward in an art piece and darker colors kind of go back. So I thought I would play with a little bit of yellow and orange, and I evaluated before I started making this video which areas and which shapes I would want to do this on, and I picked out the smaller shapes that looked like they were already sitting and kind of floating on top. So my thought was, if I filled in a few of these shapes, that maybe those shapes would pop out a little bit more. And like I said, this is a live experiment, and sometimes in art, when you experiment, you like what you do, and sometimes you don't like what you do. So I'm going to experiment right here and see. Here's another one of these small circles that looked like it was sitting on top. See if I like the color popping out. Now this doesn't kind of look balanced because I don't have any color over here. So I was also going to do a little bit of orange. So I decided, and orange has yellow in it, so I thought that maybe those two colors would work well together on this experiment. Okay, still not balanced. A little heavier on this side, so my other thought was right here. We'll see. I don't want to do too much because I want these to pop out and look like the other, come to the foreground, and the others to kind of stay in the background. Remember when we color, we kind of go one direction on the side. We make our color walls and kind of go one direction. And then this was the last one I was going to do right here. So I'm going to make my color wall. Okay. But notice I'm kind of going one direction and I just go down, down. And I'm almost done. And then you can decide if you like my experiment or don't like my experiment, if you want to add some color or not. And I am thinking or not. I kind of liked the dramatic effect of the black and white, but I thought these might pop and look kind of fun. So let me see. Okay, I think it looks a little more balanced if I turn it up and down this way. And I don't know, you can decide. If you want to add some color to yours, fine. If not, that's up to you, but I think I preferred it black and white. So I hope this was a fun project for you, and send me the pictures on your portfolios if you get a chance.